"You should be careful with that one, Mr. Patterson," Eddie said, nodding at the shrub he'd just planted along my back fence. "Poison sumac. Nasty stuff if you brush against it." I stared at him, then at the row of identical plants he'd just spent 2 hours putting in. "You planted poison sumac in my yard?" He shifted his weight, looked past me toward the driveway. "Your son-in-law said you specifically wanted them, said you knew what you were doing." That's when I knew Greg hadn't just crossed a line. He'd declared war. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I'm 72 years old. Spent 40 years as a civil engineer before I retired. I know the difference between a decorative shrub and a plant that'll send you to the emergency room with blisters covering your arms. I also know when someone's lying to me. "Greg told you I wanted poison sumac planted." Not a question. Eddie wouldn't meet my eyes. "Called me direct. Said you were getting forgetful, might not remember asking for them, but that you discussed it with him and your daughter. Paid me extra to get them installed quick." "How much extra?" $200 on top of the job." I pulled out my phone, took pictures of every plant. Eddie standing there with his shovel. The invoice in his truck with Greg's signature on the payment line. "Pull them out," I said. "Mr. Patterson, I can't just—" "Pull them out now, or I call the county and report you for planting hazardous vegetation without proper disclosure. Your choice." Took him 90 minutes to remove what he'd spent 2 hours planting. I watched every minute, took more pictures. When he finished, I handed him a check for the original job, not the poison sumac portion. "That money Greg gave you?" I said. "Keep it. You're going to need it for a lawyer if he tries this again and doesn't tell you." Eddie left. I stood in my backyard looking at the empty holes along the fence line. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I felt cold instead. Calculated. Greg had married my daughter Stephanie 4 years ago. I'd had doubts then. Should have listened to them. He worked in pharmaceutical sales, made good money, drove a Lexus he replaced every 2 years, talked a lot about maximizing assets and strategic planning. At Thanksgiving, he'd corner me with questions about my retirement accounts, my property value, whether I'd considered optimizing my estate planning. I'd ignored it, figured he was just one of those guys who made everything about money. Then Martha died, 18 months ago. Pancreatic cancer, 6 weeks from diagnosis to hospice. I held her hand when she went. Same bedroom where we'd slept for 43 years. Stephanie came to the funeral, cried, hugged me, said she'd be there for whatever I needed. I saw her 3 times in the next year. Once when she needed to borrow my truck for a move. Once at Christmas when they stopped by, for 40 minutes on their way to Greg's parents. Once when Greg wanted to discuss some financial opportunities that turned out to be a whole life insurance pitch. The calls came more often. Always Greg. Never just to talk. "Hey, Jim. Quick question about your property taxes. Jim, been thinking about that oak tree near your power lines. Liability issue if it comes down. We should really sit down and review your paperwork. Make sure everything's in order." I'd brush him off, change the subject. But he kept coming back, like water finding cracks. 3 months ago, he showed up unannounced. Saturday morning, I was having coffee on the back porch. "Jim, got a minute?" He didn't wait for an answer. Pulled up a chair. "Steph and I are concerned about you rattling around in this big house alone." "I'm fine." "House this size, 5 bedrooms. You're what, 72? Lot of maintenance for one person." He had his phone out, swiping. "Property's assessed at $420,000. You're sitting on significant equity that's not working for you. It's working fine as my house." Sure. But think about it. You sell, downsize to a nice senior apartment, you'd free up $300,000, easy. Invest that properly, you're looking at $25,000 a year in additional income. I set down my coffee. Didn't spill a drop. I built this house in 1984. Same year Stephanie was born. Not selling. I get the emotional attachment, I do. But emotions aren't a financial strategy. He leaned forward. "Look, Steph won't say it, but she worries. You're here alone, anything happens, could be days before anyone finds you. I'm 72, not 92. I still drive. Still do my own grocery shopping. Still beat you at poker last month." He smiled. The patient smile you give a child who doesn't understand adult concepts. "Just think about it. We could help you find a place. Handle the transition. Make it easy." After he left, I sat there for a long time. Clock ticking in the kitchen. Same clock Martha and I had hung the week we moved in. That was the first time I really counted it up. What I'd given Stephanie over the years. $45,000 for her wedding. Open bar, seated dinner for $200. Destination rehearsal dinner because Greg's parents were hosting and he didn't want to look cheap by comparison. $28,000 when they bought their house 6 years ago. Down payment help. Greg said they'd pay it back within 2 years. Never saw a dollar. $15,000 for Greg's business opportunity 3 years back. Some supplement MLM thing. Folded in 8 months. He never mentioned it again. Monthly transfers averaged $800 for the last 4 years. Sometimes car payment. Sometimes their mortgage when a commission check came late. Sometimes just cash flow issues. I opened my banking app. Scrolled back. The numbers glowed cold and precise. $161,400 in 6 years. Not counting the weekly dinners when they'd come over and I'd cook. Not counting the birthday checks. Not counting the time I paid their property taxes when Greg said the payment had slipped through the cracks. And what did I get? 7 visits last year. I counted them. 4 were Greg wanting to discuss something. 2 were holidays where they stayed less than 2 hours. 1 was Stephanie's birthday when I took them to dinner and paid. Phone calls came maybe twice a month. Always the same pattern. Small talk for 90 seconds, then, "Dad, I need to ask you something." The thank yous had stopped years ago. The help had become expected, assumed. An obligation I'd somehow agreed to without ever signing a contract. I'd become an ATM that occasionally got invited to Christmas, when they remembered. After Martha died, I'd hoped things might change. Thought maybe Stephanie would visit more. Call just to check in. But the visits got less frequent. The calls became texts, and the texts were usually about money. "Dad, can you help with the AC repair? $2,400. Dad, Greg's bonus got delayed. Can you cover our HOA fees this month? Dad, we're short on the car payment. Can you transfer $650? I paid them all. Every single one. Because she was my daughter, and I kept thinking if I just helped enough, if I was just there enough, things would get better. They didn't get better. 2 months ago, Greg started bringing papers when he visited. Printed documents in folders. Just some estate planning stuff. Making sure you're protected. Power of attorney forms. Trust documents with Stephanie and Greg named as trustees. A living will that gave them medical decision authority. Standard stuff, Greg said. Everyone your age should have this in place. I didn't sign anything. He came back the next week with different papers. Same purpose. "Jim, I really think we need to get this handled. If something happens and you don't have proper documentation, the state steps in. Court-appointed guardians, frozen assets, whole mess. I'll think about it." Thinking's great, but we need action. Steph's worried sick about you being here alone without proper legal protection. I looked at him. Really looked at him. 36 years old. $500 sunglasses pushed up on his head. Rolex I'd never seen before. Keys to the new Lexus on my kitchen table. Where'd Stephanie get the idea I need protection? We've both noticed things, Jim. You're repeating stories. Forgetting conversations. Last month you called her Jennifer. Jennifer was Martha's sister. Stephanie looks just like her. I corrected myself immediately. See, you don't even remember that you didn't correct it. That's what we're talking about. He tapped the papers. This isn't about taking anything from you. It's about protecting you. After he left, I called my doctor. Made an appointment for a cognitive assessment. Dr. Richardson had been treating me for 15 years. He'd know if something was off. Took the full evaluation, memory tests, problem solving, spatial recognition, the works, perfect score. "Jim, your cognitive function is completely normal for your age," Dr. Richardson said. Actually better than normal. Whatever concerns your family has, they're not based in medical reality. I had him document everything. Signed forms, official letterhead, dated and witnessed. That night I sat at my kitchen table, The one I'd built from oak in my workshop. Same table where Martha and I had hosted 30 years of Sunday dinners, and I understood. Greg didn't think I was incompetent. He wanted me to appear incompetent, get me declared unable to manage my affairs, take control of my assets, sell the house, put me somewhere cheap, pocket the difference. It wasn't concern. It was a strategy. I'd seen this pattern before. Back when I was working, there was a guy in accounting whose son-in-law pulled the same thing. Had him declared incompetent, moved him to a state facility, sold his house, cleaned out his accounts. Guy died within 2 years. Son-in-law bought a boat. That was Tuesday. Thursday, I got a call from Eddie the landscaper. "Mr. Patterson, your son-in-law reached out about doing some plantings. Said you wanted some privacy shrubs along the back fence. I can come by Saturday if that works." "What kind of shrubs?" He specified poison sumac. Said you liked the fall color. I told Eddie I'd call him back. Poison sumac. Not even trying to be subtle anymore. If I brushed against it working in the yard, I'd get severe dermatitis, blisters. At my age, risk of infection. End up in the hospital. Once I'm there, Greg could push the incompetency angle. Can't even maintain his own property safely. Clearly not capable of independent living. I called Eddie back. Told him to come ahead, but plant Shema Greg specified. I'd handle Greg separately, which led to Saturday morning. Eddie planting poison, me taking pictures, Eddie removing poison while I documented everything. Sunday, my phone rang. Greg. "Hey, Jim. Eddie said there was some confusion about the plantings." "No confusion. He told me you paid him to plant poison sumac in my yard." Silence. Then, "It's a decorative plant, Jim. Lots of people use it for privacy screening. It's a hazardous plant that causes severe contact dermatitis. You know this. I know you know this. What I don't know is whether you're stupid enough to think I wouldn't notice. Jesus, Jim. This is exactly what we're talking about. You're paranoid, seeing threats that don't exist." His voice shifted. Concern mode. "Maybe we should set up an appointment with your doctor. Get you checked out." "Already did. Perfect cognitive function. Got the paperwork if you want to see it." Another silence. Longer. "I was trying to do something nice for you. By planting poison in my yard." "It wasn't poison. It was landscaping. But fine. Whatever. I won't try to help anymore." He hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, coffee cold. I had forgotten I'd poured it. That's when I started really paying attention. Tuesday, I got a notice from my bank. Someone had attempted to add an authorized user to my checking account. Online request. Denied because it required in-person verification. Wednesday, I got a call from my insurance company. Someone identifying themselves as my son-in-law had called to inquire about my life insurance beneficiaries and whether the policy had any cash value that could be borrowed against. Thursday, my neighbor Helen stopped me at the mailbox. "Jim, I saw a man in your backyard yesterday afternoon. Looked like he was taking pictures of your house." "What'd he look like?" "30s, nice car. Left when he saw me watching." "Greg." Friday, Stephanie called. First time in 6 weeks. "Dad, Greg told me you completely freaked out on him about the landscaping. He tried to plant poison sumac in my yard. It's a privacy shrub, Dad. He was trying to help and you accused him of trying to poison you. Do you hear how that sounds?" "I hear how it sounds." "Do you hear what I'm saying? Poison sumac, not a privacy shrub, a hazardous plant. You're being paranoid. When's the last time you called just to talk? Not to ask for money, not to tell me what Greg thinks I should do, just to talk." Silence. Not the thinking kind. The caught kind. "That's not fair," she finally said. "You visited 7 times last year. 4 were Greg's visits, you just came along. 2 were holidays where you stayed less than 2 hours. 1 was your birthday dinner that I paid for. Want me to count the year before?" "I've been busy, Dad. We have lives." "I know you do. What I don't know is when I stopped being part of that life except when you needed money." "That's not true. We care about you." "Stephanie, your husband tried to add himself to my bank account. Called my insurance company, tried to plant hazardous vegetation in my yard, wants me to sign over power of attorney, and you're calling to tell me I'm paranoid. He's trying to help you by taking control of my assets. You need help, Dad. You're 72 years old, living alone in a house too big for you. Something happens, you could die before anyone finds you. There it was, almost word for word what Greg had said. So the answer is to sell my house, give you and Greg the money, and move me somewhere cheap? That's not what we're saying. Then what are you saying? We're saying we're worried about you and you're being hostile to people who care. I looked around my kitchen. Morning light through the window Martha had insisted we expand because she wanted to see the garden while she cooked. Scratch marks on the door frame where we'd measured Stephanie's height every year until she moved out. The cabinet I'd built with wood left over from the deck project. When's the last time you asked about Mom? I said. Stephanie didn't answer. It's been 18 months. You came to the funeral. Haven't mentioned her since. Never asked how I'm doing. Never called to check in. Just texts asking for money and visits where Greg wants something. We've been dealing with our own stuff, Dad. What stuff? What's been going on with you? Just life, work, things. She didn't even have an answer ready. I gave you $161,400 in 6 years, I said. Counted it. Every transfer, every check, every emergency. Not once in the last 18 months did you call just to see how I was doing after Mom died. Dad, I'm not signing anything. I'm not selling my house, and I'm not giving you any more money. We're done. You can't be serious. Never been more serious in my life. Dad, you're making a mistake. We're trying to help, and you're pushing us away. Then stop trying to help. Leave me alone. I hung up. My hands were shaking now. I set the phone down, gripped the edge of the table, oak solid under my palms. The texts started an hour later. Greg. Jim, Stephanie's really upset. We need to talk about this. Greg. You're not thinking clearly. This is exactly the behavior we're worried about. Greg. I've contacted an elder law attorney. For your own protection. Stephanie. Dad, please call me. You're scaring me. Stephanie. Greg showed me your bank records. You're giving money to people you don't even know. Online scams. This is serious. I stared at that last one. Bank records. I'd never given Greg access to my bank records. I called my bank. Got transferred to fraud prevention. Mr. Patterson, someone using your information attempted to access your account through our online portal. They had your social security number and account number but failed the security questions. We froze the account temporarily as a precaution. When was this? This morning, 9:42 a.m., right after I'd hung up with Stephanie. I filed a police report. Identity theft attempt. Gave them Greg's name. The officer took notes but didn't seem optimistic. Family disputes are tricky, Mr. Patterson. Hard to prove intent, but we'll document it. Monday, I went to my attorney. Robert Walsh handled my and Martha's estate planning 20 years ago. Robert, I need to lock everything down, revoke any existing powers of attorney, create new documents, make sure nobody can access my assets or make medical decisions without my explicit consent. Robert nodded, asked questions, took notes. When I finished, he leaned back. Jim, I'm going to be direct. What you're describing sounds like financial exploitation. It's more common than people think. Family member tries to gain control of assets, isolate the victim, establish incompetency. That's what I think too. You did the right thing getting the cognitive evaluation. We'll attach that to your new documents. I'll also prepare a letter to send to your daughter and son-in-law, making clear that any attempts to access your accounts or property will be treated as theft. Will that stop them? Legally, it protects. You practically? He shrugged. Depends how determined they are. The new documents took a week. Power of attorney to Robert only. Exercisable only if I was medically incapacitated with certification from 2 independent physicians. Medical directives clear and specific. We'll update it with Stephanie still as beneficiary, but with a trustee provision that Greg had no access to any inheritance. Robert sent the letters certified mail. Both copies signed for. Then nothing for 2 weeks. I thought maybe they'd backed off, realized I was serious. I was wrong. I found out from Helen. She knocked on my door holding her phone. "Jim, I think you need to see this." Facebook post. Stephanie's account. Public. "I'm heartbroken to share that my dad is struggling with cognitive decline. He's become paranoid, accusing family members of terrible things, making irrational financial decisions. We've tried to help, but he's refused all support. If you're friends with him, please know that anything he says right now may not reflect reality. We love him, and we're doing everything we can to get him the help he needs. Please keep our family in your thoughts." Posted 6 hours ago. 183 likes, 67 comments. I scrolled through the comments. Friends I'd known for decades offering sympathy. Neighbors expressing concern. Stephanie responding with sad emojis and "thank you for understanding." "There's more," Helen said. She swiped. Another post, this one from Greg's account. "Hard day. Tried to visit Jim Patterson to check on him, and he wouldn't let us in the house. Threatened to call the police if we didn't leave. This is what Alzheimer's looks like in the early stages. Family becomes the enemy. The person you love disappears. If you've been through this, any advice appreciated." 147 likes, 52 comments. I stood there reading comments from people I'd worked with, people from church, people from Martha's book club, all offering sympathy to Greg and Stephanie, all talking about what a tragedy this was. Nobody had called me. Nobody had asked my side. They just believed. "Jim," Helen said carefully, "is any of this true?" "No." "Didn't think so. You seem sharper than me most days." She squeezed my arm. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. But I did know. I just wasn't ready to say it out loud." I called Robert. They've gone public with the incompetency narrative, social media posts, making me look like I have Alzheimer's. "Do you have screenshots?" "My neighbor does." "Get them. Everything. We may need them." He paused. "Jim, this is escalating. They're building a public record to support a guardianship petition. If enough people believe you're incompetent, a judge might take it seriously despite your cognitive evaluation." "What do I do?" "Document everything. Every contact, every attempt to access your accounts, every false statement, and consider talking to Adult Protective Services yourself before they do." I took his advice. Called APS that afternoon. Explained the situation. They sent a caseworker 2 days later. Her name was Patricia, mid-40s, professional but kind. She walked through my house, asked questions, reviewed my cognitive evaluation, looked at my banking records, read the police report. "Mr. Patterson, you seem fully capable of managing your affairs. Your home is well maintained. Your finances are organized. You're articulate and clear-headed." She closed her folder. "I'm going to document this visit as unsubstantiated concern. If your family files a report, we'll already have a record that you were evaluated and found competent. Will that stop them? It won't stop them from trying, but it'll make it harder for them to succeed." After she left, I sat in my living room. Same couch Martha and I had picked out in 1991. Same coffee table I'd refinished after Stephanie spilled nail polish on it when she was 16. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Patterson, this is David Chen, attorney. I represent Gregory and Stephanie Morrison regarding their concerns for your welfare. We'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss appropriate care arrangements. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience." I forwarded the text to Robert. His reply came in 2 minutes. "Don't respond. Don't meet with them. They're trying to get you on record saying something they can use. I'll handle it." The next day, Robert sent his own letter, legal letterhead, formal language. Summary: his client, James Patterson, was fully competent. Any claims otherwise were defamatory. Any attempts to access his property or accounts would be prosecuted. Cease all contact except through legal counsel. Greg called that night. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "Jim, I don't know what your lawyer told you, but this is insane. We're your family. We're trying to help, and you've turned this into some legal war. Stephanie's devastated. She cries every night thinking about you alone in that house. confused, angry. This isn't you, Jim. The real you would never treat us like this. Please, just talk to us. Let us help. I played it for Robert the next morning. Classic manipulation, he said. Gaslighting. The real you would never. Making you doubt yourself. Don't engage. I didn't engage, but they did. 2 weeks later, I got a notice. Court filing. Petition for guardianship. Gregory Morrison and Stephanie Morrison Patterson seeking to be appointed co-guardians of James Patterson, alleged incapacitated person. The hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. I read through the petition. 23 pages. Detailed account of my cognitive decline, my paranoid accusations, my refusal of help, my dangerous living conditions. Affidavits from Greg and Stephanie. Statement from concerned neighbors I'd never met. Medical opinion from a doctor I'd never seen. They're alleging you're a danger to yourself, Robert said. That's the standard for emergency. Guardianship. We'll fight it, but you need to be prepared. This is going to get ugly. It got ugly fast. The Facebook posts multiplied. Stephanie started a blog. Living with a parent who has dementia. Posts about how hard it was to watch me disappear. How guilty she felt for not recognizing the signs earlier. How important it was to act before tragedy struck. Comments poured in. Support for Stephanie. Criticism of me for refusing help. Suggestions for memory care facilities. Friends stopped calling. People at church avoided me. The woman at the grocery store I'd chatted with for years looked past me like I wasn't there. Helen still came by, brought coffee, sat with me on the porch. They're trying to destroy your reputation before the hearing, she said. Make everyone believe you're incompetent so the judge will too. It's working. With some people, not everyone. She squeezed my hand. I've known you 30 years, Jim. You built our deck, fixed our furnace that Christmas when Bill was deployed, watched our kids when I had surgery. I know who you are, and I know this is garbage. Will you testify? Already told your lawyer I would. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the petition. The lies typed up neat and official. The court believing them because why would a daughter lie about her own father? Thought about Martha. What she'd say if she could see this. She'd be furious. Martha never had much patience for people who used family as a weapon. When her brother tried to borrow money for the 5th time without paying back the first 4, she'd shut him down cold. Love doesn't mean being someone's bank, she'd said. Sometimes love means saying no. I wished she was here. Got up at 5, made coffee, watched the sun come up over the backyard. Yard I'd maintained for 40 years. Garden Martha had planted. Fence I'd replaced twice. Treehouse I'd built for Stephanie when she was 7. Robert picked me up at 8. You ready? No. Good. If you weren't nervous, I'd be worried. He handed me a folder. Everything's documented. Your cognitive evaluation, APS report, bank records showing no unusual activity, police report on the identity theft attempt, Helen's affidavit, Patricia's statement. We've got this. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Anderson, woman, maybe 60, reading glasses, no nonsense expression. Greg and Stephanie sat with their attorney on the other side. Stephanie looked like she'd been crying. Greg had his arm around her. Both of them dressed like they were going to church. I wore the suit I'd worn to Martha's funeral. Only suit I owned. Judge Anderson called the case. Greg's attorney stood. David Chen. Expensive suit. Confident voice. Your Honor, we're here because James Patterson is a 72-year-old widower living alone in deteriorating conditions with clear signs of cognitive impairment. He's made paranoid accusations against his family, refused medical care, exhibited financial irresponsibility, and created dangerous situations on his property. His daughter and son-in-law are seeking guardianship to ensure he receives appropriate care and protection. Robert stood. Your Honor, James Patterson is a fully competent adult who's being targeted for financial exploitation by his daughter and son-in-law. Every allegation in their petition is demonstrably false. We have extensive documentation proving Mr. Patterson's competency and revealing the petitioner's actual motives. Judge Anderson looked at me. Mr. Patterson, do you understand what's happening here? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. My daughter and her husband want control of my assets. They've been trying for months. When I refused, they filed this petition claiming I'm incompetent. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious situation. She nodded. We'll hear testimony. Mr. Chen, call your first witness. Stephanie took the stand. Sworn in. Chen walked her through the narrative. How worried she was. How I'd changed after Martha died. How I'd accused Greg of poisoning me with landscaping. How I'd refused to see doctors. How I'd cut off contact with family. She cried. Real tears. Maybe she even believed what she was saying. Chen showed the Facebook posts, the blog, printed comments from concerned community members. Ms. Patterson, in your opinion, is your father capable of living independently? No. Her voice broke. I think he needs help. Professional care. I love him. I just want him safe. Roberts turned to cross-examine. Ms. Patterson, when's the last time you visited your father before filing this petition? We visited in March. The petition was filed in August. That's 5 months. Before March? Christmas. So twice in 8 months. How long were those visits? I don't remember exactly. Your father's records show your Christmas visit lasted 94 minutes. Your March visit lasted 47 minutes. Does that sound accurate? She shifted. We're busy. We have jobs. Of course. How many times did your father give you money in the 6 years before your mother died? Chen objected. Robert argued relevance. Judge Anderson allowed it. Stephanie hesitated. I don't know. A few times. Your father's bank records show 47 separate transfers totaling $161,400. Does that refresh your memory? He wanted to help us. Did you pay any of that back? It was family helping family. Did you pay any of it back, yes or no? No. Robert pulled out documents, the power of attorney requests, the bank access attempt, the insurance inquiry. Ms. Patterson, were you aware your husband attempted to add himself as an authorized user on your father's checking account? No. Were you aware he contacted your father's insurance company asking about cash value and beneficiaries? He was trying to help. By accessing your father's financial accounts without permission? Chen objected. Judge Anderson sustained, but the point was made. Greg testified next. Same narrative, more polished. He talked about property values and unsafe living conditions and cognitive markers consistent with early-stage dementia. Mr. Morrison, what's your professional background? Robert asked on cross. Pharmaceutical sales. Medical training? No. Psychiatric training? No. Neurological training? No. But you feel qualified to diagnose dementia. I know the signs. My grandmother had it. Your grandmother had dementia. So you diagnosed your father-in-law with dementia based on what? The fact that he refused to let you control his bank accounts? Chen objected. Sustained. But again, point made. Robert called me next. I told my story. Calmly. Chronologically. The money. The pressure to sell the house. The power of attorney requests. The poisoned Sumac. The bank access attempts. The social media campaign. Mr. Patterson, why do you think your daughter and son-in-law filed this petition? They want my house. Want control of my assets. When I wouldn't give it to them voluntarily, they tried to take it legally. Do you love your daughter? That stopped me. Yes. Do you want her to have nothing? I want her to wait until I'm dead like everyone else who inherits from their parents. I don't want to be declared incompetent and shoved in a facility so they can sell everything I built. Robert entered the cognitive evaluation. The APS report. Bank records. Police report. Helen's affidavit. Helen testified. 68 years old. Retired teacher. 30 years as my neighbor. Mrs. Klein, in your observation, is James Patterson competent? Absolutely. He's one of the sharpest people I know, helps me with my computer, fixed my garbage disposal last month. We play chess every Wednesday. He wins more than I do. Have you observed any cognitive decline? None. What about the allegations of dangerous living conditions? Helen actually laughed. Jim's house is better maintained than mine. He's got a honey-do list he works through every weekend. Last month he painted his shutters. Month before that he replaced his water heater. Man's more competent than most people half his age. Patricia testified. The APS worker. Professional. Clinical. Her evaluation was clear. I was competent, capable, and not in need of intervention. Dr. Richardson testified by video conference, reviewed my cognitive evaluation, explained the testing, confirmed the results. In your medical opinion, does James Patterson show any signs of dementia or cognitive impairment? None whatsoever. Chen tried to discredit him, suggested I'd performed well on a test, but that didn't reflect real-world function. Dr. Richardson shut him down. Mr. Patterson's cognitive function is not just normal, but above average for his age group. His memory, executive function, and processing speed all scored in the superior range. This isn't someone in cognitive decline. This is someone being falsely accused of it. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Judge Anderson took a recess, came back 20 minutes later. I've reviewed all testimony and evidence. This is one of the clearer cases I've seen. Mr. Patterson is demonstrably competent. The petitioners have failed to meet their burden of proof. Moreover, the evidence suggests the petition was filed in bad faith for financial motives rather than genuine concern. She looked at Greg and Stephanie. I'm denying the petition for guardianship. I'm also issuing a restraining order. Petitioners are prohibited from contacting Mr. Patterson except through legal counsel. They are prohibited from attempting to access his property, accounts, or medical information. Violation will result in contempt charges. She looked at me. Mr. Patterson, I'm sorry you had to go through this. You have my admiration for standing up for yourself. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. I sat there. Hands on the table. Oak solid. Real. Robert squeezed my shoulder. You won. Stephanie was crying. Greg had his jaw clenched. Their attorney was packing up fast. I walked out without looking at them. Helen met me outside, hugged me hard. Proud of you, Jim. We went to lunch. Diner near the courthouse. I ordered eggs and bacon even though it was 2 in the afternoon. Felt like I'd earned it. What now? Helen asked. Now I go home, live my life. They can stay away. Think they will? They don't have a choice. That night, I sat on my back porch. Same spot where Greg had first told me to sell my house, clock ticking inside, oak table under my hands. My phone buzzed, text from Stephanie. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed our family. I blocked her number. Then I called a contractor, got an estimate to extend the back fence, plant some real privacy shrubs, maple trees, not poison, create a space that was fully mine, cost $8,000. I approved it same day. Few weeks later, the work was done. New fence, new trees. I stood in my backyard looking at 40 years of memories. Treehouse, garden, shed I'd built. Space that Martha and I had created. It wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. Helen came over with coffee one morning. We sat on the porch. Saw Stephanie's blog, she said. She's still posting about you. What's she saying? That the court system failed. That you manipulated everyone, that she's not giving up on getting you help. Helen shook her head. Woman's delusional. She believes it. That's what makes it work. She's convinced herself she's the victim. You ever think about reaching out? No. Not even a little? I thought about it. Really thought. She's my daughter. I love her. But I don't like who she's become. And I don't trust her. Maybe that'll change someday. But right now, I shook my head. I'm done being an ATM. I'm done being treated like an asset to liquidate. I spent 40 years building this life. I'm going to enjoy what's left of it. Helen raised her coffee cup. To enjoying what's left. We sat there in the morning sun. Clock ticking, birds singing, life continuing. I'm 72 years old. I spent 40 years as an engineer, built a house, raised a daughter, buried my wife. I'm not incompetent. I'm not confused. I'm not a victim. I'm just a man who finally said no. And I'm fine with that. If you liked this story, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to more stories, click on the window on the right. Thank you for being with us.